idea that I would have a moment where I was suddenly an adult. And I would know all of the answers, and I would know who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, and everything would make sense. But like probably most of you, I grew older and realized that's a complete myth. And that as adults, we're constantly blindly stumbling our way through life with no idea where we're going or what we're doing. And when we find an answer, one of those beautiful little truths, that just leads us to more questions. But it's a myth we still tell children. I tell children myself all the time, I'm older, trust me, I know the answers. And of the people who sell us this myth, my grandfather was the best salesman. My grandfather is the most wonderful kind of know-it-all. He will answer all of your unasked questions with facts real and completely fabricated, with the same commanding level of authority. He was my grandfather, is my grandfather, and I, the grandchild, no matter how old I am. He's also the king of dabblers, keeping up his idea as a know-it-all. He dabbled in guitar for a while, learned some chords before burying it in the corner. He studied figure drawing and gave us portraits of all of our faces. He learned ham radio and talked at length about the friends he'd made from around the world and country. But my favorite of my grandfather's know-it-all dabbling was amateur magic. Now, most magicians probably do magic so that they can show people joy, so that they can make people surprised and delighted and see the face when they're surprised. That was not my grandfather's main focus. I went to visit my grandfather and he called me over. Your grandmother invited over the Hastings kids the other day, he said. They were 5 and 6 years old. Oh, did they like the magic, I asked him? I tricked them silly, he told me. They didn't know what was coming. Oh, they couldn't figure out any of my tricks. That's right, my grandfather did magic to fool small children, so he would always know more than them. And the thing is, he was good. I gave him a regular penny. He put it on the table and put a handkerchief on top of it. Bam! He lifted the handkerchief, raised it, and where my penny was stood a giant penny. Even at 20, I was amazed. I was suddenly a child, and he was again my grandfather. When you think about what you're going to be when you grow up, there's things you don't think about. When you grow up, you get older, even old. And my grandfather, over the years, had a harder time doing magic. His hands started to shake, and it was harder for us to show that lie that he was the one with the answers and I was just the young grandfather. And I could see in his tremoring hands that all of the cards in the deck were aces of clubs. And I could see as he moved the cups that the ball was rolling in his hand. Could you tell? No. I'd lie to him. How'd you do that one? And I hated myself for lying, but I couldn't admit that he wasn't the one with the answers. Over time, he stopped doing magic, and if that was it would have been okay. But the thing is, aging continues. And a few months ago, my grandfather ended up in the hospital. I went to visit him, and I brought him piles of magazines filled with facts, things he could memorize and learn and spit back to me. I put them on his table triumphantly. He could be that person again. And my grandmother looked at me. He can't read anymore, you know, she said. Well, you could read to him, I said. I can't focus, he told me. I visited him again at the hospital a month later, and he wasn't able to speak. When I looked at him, he just whispered ice in his dry mouth, and my grandmother spoon-fed him ice. She and I talked together, and occasionally he'd whisper from the corner. At some point he looked at me, focusing and unfocusing on my face. Sorry, he said. Sorry for what? I wondered. For aging? For being sick? For not being able to entertain me? No, Pepe, it's okay, you're not here to entertain me. I'm just happy to see you, I said. As I left the visit later, I turned to wave before I left. And he said to me the only full sentence he'd said in an hour. Hey, what's the weather like outside? He whispered to me. My grandfather, who used to know all the answers, hadn't left his hospital bed in a month, and he didn't have the smallest bit of information. It's cold outside, I said. Not as cold as yesterday, but it's cold. I love you, Pepe, I said as I left the room. Walked out of the hospital into the freezing cold parking lot, feeling strangely